If your heart stops, do you want everything? Hi, I'm Chelsea, the palliative PA, and I feel like the elusive code status conversation is one that's super important because I actually used to moonlight as a hospitalist, and I'll tell you my code status conversation was not what it is today. So I'd like to go through what it used to be and what it is now. Oh crap, I forgot to ask them about code status. Hold on, I'll be right back. Hi, Mrs. Smith. So yeah, I have a question that we have to ask everybody whenever you come into the hospital, whether you come to the ER or you're admitted, so don't get offended, but I need to ask about your code status. Oh yeah, so what is code status? So it's essentially like if your heart stops, what we do. If your heart stops, do you want CPR and to be intubated? Okay, so why I cringe looking back on this conversation is because do you want CPR? Do you want to be intubated? Like, nobody really wants to be intubated, but whenever you present it as your heart stops and we do nothing, or your heart stops and we do everything, it's kind of a yes or no question, and there's definitely a gray zone in between. So let me tell you how I have a code status conversation now. Hi, Mrs. Smith. So I have a couple more questions for you if you don't mind. There's something called your code status, which we like to talk about each time you're in the hospital. So I'm sure you've been asked these questions before, but I like to talk about them in a little bit more detail. Essentially, code status is something that comes into play if your heart stops. What do we do? So the couple of things that we can do. One is CPR. So CPR is essentially when the heart stops, the blood stops as well. So we pound on the chest to try to get the blood pumping again. And while we're doing that, we're compressing the chest very hard to the point that sometimes we do break ribs. And not only that, because the blood is not circulating during this time, there are potential other damages that can happen, like brain damage. So because the blood isn't pumping to the brain, sometimes after a cardiac arrest, which is where the heart stops, there can be brain damage afterward. Now, the other thing is that during CPR, because the blood is not pumping, same thing, the lungs are not functioning, nothing is working. So because the lungs are also not functioning, there's no air movement, meaning there's no oxygen movement. And when there's no oxygen movement, we need to get oxygen in, or even if we get the heart pumping again and there's no oxygen flowing, then same thing, the risk of brain damage and other problems is much higher. So usually what we do during CPR is we put a tube down your throat and put you on a breathing machine, at least temporarily. This is not something that necessarily will be long-term, but we at least have to get things going. If we're going to attempt to resuscitate you, we want to do all of the measures that would give you the best chance of success afterward. And of course, the other option would be to allow you to die naturally. So how do you feel about those type of interventions if your heart were to stop? These conversations are hard, no matter what, no matter how many times you've done them, no matter how many times you try to perfect them, they're just not perfect and they feel awkward because it's not something anybody wants to talk about. Let me know how you have a code status conversation and how you feel about these in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions, and as always, follow along for more.